Chuck stole my things, trashed my home, and yet Jason defended him. Jason expects me to forgive and forget, but how much longer can I keep sacrificing my own peace for his brother? Awesome. My female 39 fiancé Jason, male 39, and I have been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We live together. His brother Chuck, male 38, is a mess, and we don't get along. Chuck is super into conspiracy theories, loves to write coattails, and the string of exes that hate him could fill up a highway. Story is very much the same in every case. He meets the girl, does some serious love bombing, gains access to her things, then cheats, gets caught, and gets dumped. To rinse and repeat. I tried to keep a distant but cordial relationship with him until I learned that one of his exes almost committed suicide, and he seemed flattered. Also, his jokes began to get more and more personal until I realized that he was just brazen and disrespectful. I cut ties with him, and this has caused severe problems in my relationship with Jason. Chuck started a relationship with Emma early this year. She seemed to be well-to-do, and let him use her car. I don't have the entire story, but supposedly she broke up with him while he was out of town. She kept asking for her car back, and he kept pushing the date back to return it. So she called the police and reported it stolen. She took him back a few weeks later, only to end things abruptly. So we had to go pick Chuck up at a railway station. All his belongings were inside trash bags. He had no money for a ticket, or even for a meal. He was visibly agitated, and Jason called me out for showing no interest. Then Chuck explained why it happened. I was expecting it. He got caught cheating, and all broke loose. He even lost his job because he worked for her close friend and was locked out of the house. Jason asked me to let his brother sleep over at our place, so I agreed because it was already too late at night. I was very specific that I would not live with his brother under the same roof. Chuck moved in with his close friend but has already been told he must leave. Jason asked me to give his brother a chance, which is a huge no for me, and he's gone from begging me to demanding. This makes me feel very disappointed because he's overriding my feelings. Well, I came home early and found the TV on. It was weird, and it scared me. I went into our bedroom and found Chuck sleeping on our bed. I have no words to describe how much I hate him. He always destroys everything. So this time he urinated all over the bathroom mat, and I found out because of the smell. No one else does that. He also went into my small office space in the family room because my chair was moved into the living room. So I called Jason immediately. I wanted him to deal with his brother, but I didn't get any support. He yelled at me and said I was messing around and was about to find out, and it sounded like a film due to break up. I feel broken inside. I'm sick of Chuck, as whenever he shows up he takes stuff, hair conditioner, food, random small decor stuff without permission, and this is just another reason to despise him. She reached much stability before this happened. I tried to talk to Jason about it yet again, and he said I'm trying to rip his brotherly relationship apart. I don't want to have intimacy with him anymore because I feel humiliated. I understand he loves his brother and that I'm not in his position. So my kids love him so much and he wanted to adopt them. I'm so lost here. A part of me wants to move out because I feel like I suddenly lost my place in his life. I'm an idiot for hating his brother and rejecting him. Eat it, I'm renting, and I'm on the lease. Jason is not on the lease, but he's been allowing his brother to crash during the day without my permission. So nip that crap in the bud. By JD Doom Secretary. The Bias Leader, Monber. Dare, Fack. Call the cops and get your crappy ex-future brother-in-law out before any property rights attach and tell your fiancé. Hopefully soon to be ex. He has 30 days to get the heck out and you're going to stay eviction proceedings. So this man has zero respect for you. He and his brother can go live together elsewhere. Sleeping in your bed and urinating on the bathroom rug. Get the heck out of here. Girl, you are the idiot yourself and your poor kids. Stop being a dumb ostrich. You got kids. Start being a good parent. You need to handle this right away. Get your landlord to change the locks and kick your loser fiancé out. Explain to your landlord that your boyfriend has been threatening you and has allowed his brother into your apartment without your permission. Your children don't need to grow up in this environment. These two men are for the streets. For goodness sake, call the cops, landlord and friend, and have this urinating hobo kicked out. Jason is using you. He and his brother are both trash. My girlfriend comes from a well-off family, but they're not necessarily super rich. They just have a small construction company with around 100 to 200 employees. However, her spending behavior since we've been dating has been enormous. For instance, she'll often spend $10,000 on a single trip to a boutique like Hermes or Louis Vuitton. The other thing is that she enjoys luxury vacations. Last year, she spent around $100,000 on these vacations. It's also not that I'm jealous. For instance, she's gifted me a Cartier Santos watch even though I didn't ask for it or anything. I just told her I feel she should be more conscious of her spending behavior and why she needs to go places where one night costs $10,000. I'm sure you can find rooms that are almost as good in other places for a few $100s. It just seems so unnecessary to me, and it's building bad habits to spend too much money on things that are not at all necessary. It would be better to invest the money or fund a business with it, or something like that. But when I brought it up, she claimed that I should lighten up and that spending a bit of money was not such a big deal. She claimed I was probably just not used to it because I grew up poor. Even though I didn't, my father is a pilot and my mother works at the library and can't relate to the lifestyle. Am I the idiot? I just feel it's so unnecessary and frivolous. Why are her spending habits important to you at the moment? She isn't spending your money. It would only be an issue if you were planning on getting married, which doesn't seem likely as you're financially incompatible. So why not just chill and let her do her thing? You are the idiot because you're a boyfriend, not a husband. This reeks of jealousy. You do not get to control her money, time, or decisions. How she spends her money is up to her. Leave her to her luxuries if you can't handle it. It isn't the point of dating a compatibility check. Why ignore an obvious incompatibility just because marriage isn't in the immediate future? Sounds like OP was just raised with different values where spending money excessive is seen as bad. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with being frugal or lavish in your spending if you don't go too far in either direction. But if this is the sort of thing OP can't get over, then it sounds like they aren't compatible. Pal, I hate to break it to you, but your girlfriend's family is super rich. Not even regular wealthy people spend $100,000 on vacations in a year. Also, several hundred people is a lot more than a small business. There are generally several dozen outside of manufacturing. For a construction company, I would say several hundred would be a solid medium-sized business. Yep, if they're dropping $100,000 on vacations and luxury goods, casually their small business is pulling in some serious cash. Definitely not small by most standards. She only thinks she's slightly rich because she knows people whose parents are billionaires. LLL, we're not Elon rich, but we're well off. Also rich enough to think a pilot's family is poor? What the heck? Someone please get this woman a prenup. Last year we bought a house that came with a big bunker. I plan to use it as a studio and office because it blocks sound perfectly. I finally started converting the space. Since I'll be keeping expensive equipment down there, I've just installed a heavy-duty lock. Apparently the neighbor's kids used to play in it before, but they realized it was locked now, so their dad came around to talk to me about it. He said the previous neighbor always left it unlocked, so they could use it in case of a tornado. So it's a pretty big safety concern for him and his family that we've now put a lock on it, as they don't have a basement. So he wants to come to some compromise about it. I said, if there's ever a tornado, we'll let them come in with us. He said that's not enough though, because he noticed we're out a lot. So he wants the code to the lock so they can get in if there's an emergency. He would also give his kids the code just in case they're home alone. They are for several hours every day after school and can't reach him or their mom. I don't know my neighbor or trust him or his kids. I don't want them to mess with my stuff, or they could give the code out to other people and my things could get stolen. It just seems shady and not like a good idea to me. Am I the idiot for locking our neighbors out of our bunker? Not the idiot. Don't do it. If your expensive equipment is damaged or stolen, you will have no recourse because you've handed out the code. You might as well leave your front door open for anyone to wander in. Explain to the neighbor that it's your property and that the old owners sold it. If they need a bunker, they'll have to build one. You will share your bunker if you're home and an emergency arises. If you're not home, they will need to have other arrangements in place. That is their responsibility as adults and homeowners. Yeah, if the neighbor is so concerned about emergencies, then why not build their own bunker so you wouldn't have to mess around with codes and get access to someone else's property? It just seems like the smarter thing to do, which is probably why the neighbor isn't doing it. Compromise my foot. He's darn bold, isn't he? If you need an excuse, my insurance does not cover any possible injuries or issues regarding the use of property by third parties. Please ask your children to stop trespassing. Thank you. I will not be discussing this again. As someone who owns a few properties, this is one of my favorite go-to excuses for not letting everyone and their friends borrow a cabin or condo for the weekend. That said, OP, be prepared for guilt tripping by dude by his kids. So put up cameras, motion-activated sprinklers, and signs that say no trespassing. If you live in tornado country, why has he not created his own provisions? This is ridiculous. Remember that no is a complete sentence. My boyfriend, 24 male, and I, 21 female, have been officially together for around 5 months. He's had a full beard the entire time I've known him. I guess he mostly kept a beard since he started growing facial hair around 15. So the only pictures I've seen of him without one are from when he was in middle school or younger. Yesterday, when he was on lunch at work, he FaceTimed me and surprised me that he'd gone fully shaved. He didn't tell me he was planning it, so it shocked me. When I answered the phone, my first thought was that it was his high school-age brother that he lives with, who looks a lot like him. And when I realized it was him, I gasped and then couldn't help myself from laughing for a minute. Obviously, he seemed upset, but I tried to make sure to tell him that I still liked how he looked. I was just very surprised because he looked decently different and much younger without facial hair, and I wasn't expecting to answer the call to that. He still seemed upset and quickly hung up afterwards, saying something like, "This is why I never fully shave." I was supposed to see him today, but he's been pretty dry with few responses since then. Am I the idiot for my reaction? If you called him up with a new haircut out of nowhere and he didn't think it was you, then laughed when he found out it was you, you wouldn't hesitate to say he was an idiot. And if we applied this to makeup on a girl, would it be okay to laugh because girls look like a completely different person with makeup on? You are the idiot. Men have emotions too. A laugh doesn't need to be an evil mocking laugh. It can also just be a surprised and amused laugh. She was amused by the fact that he looked so different. She thought he was his brother. I don't see what's so terrible about that. So it's a running joke at this point. I'm basically not allowed to shave. The first time my daughter saw me clean-shaven, she literally didn't look at my face for a month. Easier to do since she doesn't live with me, but I digress. And my stepson went, "Who are you? And why are you wearing my dad's clothes?" Not the idiot. If a man has facial hair as a regular part of how he looks, he's aware he looks vastly different without it. It's not a surprise. My sister Zoe is nice to a fault. She gives others second chances, but she's too trusting with the people she gives second chances to and winds up having consequences for whichever family member Zoe convinces to stick their neck out for. My grandparents were talking about needing a cleaner, and Zoe asked them to hire a friend, Ash. After several months, my grandparents learned Ash had been pocketing my grandma's jewelry. Zoe had recommended Ash's cleaning services for our grandparents' friends, and now we suspect that she's stolen from them too. Zoe made an excuse that Ash was a good person but had a bad home life and only took the jewelry because she was trying to get away from her parents. My grandparents were not amused and said Ash was lucky because that was the only reason they didn't report her. Later, Zoe recommended a friend, Lily, as a babysitter for our brother's son, Max, a preteen male. So according to Max, Lily was on her phone the whole time, and Max was alone for dinner. Max claims Lily was mean to him, and my nephew isn't the type to make up something like that. Zoe made an excuse by saying that Lily's boyfriend had broken up with her. She's a good person, but is just having a hard time. I rolled my eyes at how a good person would ever feel better about herself by being mean to a child. Michael was obviously angry at Zoe for recommending Lily. Zoe kept trying to push me to talk to him and agree that she was right. I eventually got fed up and told Zoe how I got that she wanted to give people second chances. But no one she recommends is ever trustworthy, and she should try putting her own neck on the line so she'll get why we're so annoyed with taking the consequences of her kindness, and then her coming and trying to make us agree that she did a good thing. After that, our parents reached out to me. They said that they understood Michael and me being frustrated, and that they would talk to Zoe about being naive. But she was trying to do a good deed, and I should apologize to her, because no matter the circumstance, it's a crummy thing to put down someone with the best intentions. One could argue that this is none of our parents' business, as we're all adults now, but our parents typically stay out of our business. This is one of the only times our parents have gotten involved in our disagreements, so now I'm torn between whether I should apologize or hold my ground. Edit. Thankfully, almost all the stolen jewelry was recovered. They forced Ash to take them to the pawn shop where she'd sold it and had her rebuy everything. Someone else had bought one necklace before, but my grandmother claims it wasn't her favorite anyway. My grandparents also told Ash to give their friends a reason to quit and stay away. No more trouble since from her. Not the idiot. There's a saying, the road to the bad place is paved with good intentions. You do not owe Zoe an apology. Zoe owes apologies to everyone who took her recommendations. Apologies are not excuses for her friend's behavior. She needs to sit with feeling bad about herself after what you said and think about her choices of friends. The rest of you probably have learned by now to decline her recommendations or even not loop her in when you need someone. Since you're all adults, you can politely tell your parents, with all due respect, that you disagree with their point of view and stand by what you told her, because she needed to hear it. I don't get the feeling she actually has good intentions. She just wants people to think she does. Poppy never mentions her sister apologizing or showing any remorse, but she constantly puts her family in bad situations with her recommendations, and when she's called out on it, it only harps about how she did a good thing. She's being generous with other people's goodwill and taking credit for the act but not responsibility for the adverse results. And it's like she sees herself in a position of plausible deniability. Why does sis have such crappy friends? They're stealing from the elderly and leaving a child to starve for goodness sake. It's unhealthy and weird to surround yourself with all losers for no reason. Does your sir have a savior complex or something? She's beyond naive. She's actively harmful in recommending these awful people. It sounds like she expects people to pat her on the back and tell her she did a good job.